Shugarupa Prabodhatnya Sarva Shastra Visharada Edat Kadab Sangena Madatnyanam Vinashaya. I bow to Sri Shuka, who gave us this book, who is the source of all wisdom, and this book which will take away our ignorance. Vasudeva Sudam Devam Kamsa Charuramardanam Devagi Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. I bow to Lord Krishna, the preceptor of the universe. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Atitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May we be nourished, may we be protected, may we study with great enthusiasm, may our studies lead us to the greatest, and may we never have cause to fight with each other. Let there be peace in the world, peace in the society, and peace in our own minds. Hari Om Tat Sat. I'm sorry that we had some problem in the beginning, but let's hope we get on. So now we just once more, a very small introductory again. That is where the Bhagavad Gita is taken from the Mahabharata and given to Arjuna on the battlefield by Krishna. The Uddhava Geeta is taken from the great Bhagavad Purana, and it comes in the 11th skanda and has 23 chapters, whereas the Bhagavad Gita has only 18 chapters. The Uddhava Gita has 23 chapters, and we have already seen the background. I'm not going to repeat it. And Uddhava comes to Lord Krishna when he knows that Krishna is about to leave the world. Then he tells him, he begs him that to take him with him. And Krishna says, no, there's no question of your coming because there's more work for you to do. You have to leave everything, renounce everything, and take up to sannyas. Just the opposite of the advice that he gave to Arjuna. So then Uddhava says, but how can I renounce this when I've been with you for all my life? From the time I was 12, I've been with you, eaten with you, sung with you, worn your old clothes, worn your old garlands, and now how can I possibly leave you? So, and how am I to, it's very difficult for a person like me to control my mind and take up sannyas. So, Bhagavan gives one of the main first lesson he gives about the mind, which is a very, very important lesson, because that one verse he says is enough to actually take us to enlightenment. He says the mind itself is the cause of all this phantasmagoria of the world which we have created. Not only the world, the universe that we have created is entirely a figment of the mind. That is why it's called Maya. Because, and luckily for us, at this in this age, we can understand, because it's exactly what quantum physics says us. Quantum physics says us that what we see as solid matter is not solid matter, but is only energy in motion. So also, who gives us this idea of a solid world when it is only energy, a huge dance of protons and neutrons and electrons and so on. So it is the mind. It is the mind. It is as if we are wearing goggles. This is very easy to understand. The children will find it easy to understand, today's children, because they play some games with something called an avatar. But then they have to wear headphones. They wear headphones, and their little avatar is there inside. It's a new world. It's a kind of a metaverse. It's a new world. And in that world, that avatar has to follow all the rules of the game. If he doesn't follow, he'll be thrown out. It's exactly like this. It is said that the mind, when we wear the goggles of the mind, the headphones of the mind, then this whole game starts in front of us. When the mind is not there, like it is not there in sleep, for instance. The mind is not there in sleep. So what happens in sleep? There is no world. In deep sleep, there is no world. From this, he says, you can understand that it is the mind, the whole world is a creation of the mind. If there is no mind, there is no world. And therefore, the duality which we see is entirely created by the mind. Because of the mind, sometimes we are happy, sometimes we are sad, sometimes we are good, sometimes bad. Mana eva marshyanam karanam bandhamokshayoho is what the philosophy says. That is, the mind alone, in the human being, the mind alone is the cause of both bondage and freedom also. This is an amazing fact which has already been told to us. Only now modern science has given us a clue that what Krishna said in so many 5,000 years ago was actually absolutely true. Now, of course, this is the truth. But how to do this? How, as the verse says, it is maybe easy for a great rishi who is, great sannyasi who knows how to control his mind and how to do all this. That may be easy for a rishi like. But what about us? We are poor people. We cannot. I'm only an ordinary soul now. Remember, Uddhava is asking all these questions only for the sake of the rest of us. He is not asking questions for the sake of himself, because actually he is already a evolved soul. So he asks, but what about us, O Lord? Please tell us, what is it that we can do in order to attain salvation, get away from this, as you have said that we should get away from the mind and we will be away from Maya. So he says, Krishna says, starts off one of the chapters, say 23 chapters are in this. And one of the very important chapters is about the conversation of the guru with the Yadu. Now Krishna says, see, why should you say that we people who are coming, we don't know? Actually speaking, there are thousands and millions and millions of species in this cosmos, in this world, and out of all of them, really speaking, only the human being has the ability to understand me, to know me. For instance, the human being using his own intellect, he can understand. This mind and intellect, actually speaking, is inert. It cannot do anything without some conscious factor behind it. So the mind and intellect, that much it can know. So it can also, the human mind and intellect can also understand what is it. Try to find out what is that consciousness, what is that energy which is making it work. That much of understanding only the human being has. Not all these countless number of animals which are there, they don't have it. Only the human being can have it. So this is why he says when you get the human form, that itself is enough for you to gain enlightenment. So that is why everybody extols the human body. Having got the human body, to waste it and fritter it away in sensory pleasures, in accumulating money and making huge houses and palaces and wasting time like this is an absolute waste of time. Having got this human body, we also have this intelligence to understand that we must find out what is that engine, what is that pressure, what is that consciousness, and that agent which is behind, which makes. That is the whole thing. Now, again, Uddhava says, how do we find that out? It is difficult. He says, okay, Uddhava, I will give you a story. I will give you in story form. Once he said, our great ancestor, Yadu. Now, he says our ancestor, because both Uddhava and Krishna belong to the Yadava race. They are not different. In Arjuna's case, Arjuna belongs to the Kuru race. Here, both Uddhava and Krishna belong to the Yadava race. So he says, our great ancestor, Yadu. Yadu was the son of Yayati, and he was the grandson of Nahusha. Krishna has a lunar, they follow they come from the lunar dynasty. That is, they take this thing from the moon, Soma. Soma was this thing. Just as Sri Rama lineage comes from the solar dynasty. They are solar dynasty. Here the Surya Vamsha, and here Krishna's dynasty is Chandra Vamsha, coming from the moon. So he says, once our great ancestor Yadu, he was moving around, he was a king. He was a king, and maybe he was on a hunting expedition, we don't know. But he was, once it so happened that he was actually not on the forest as such, but maybe on a beach or something like that, or some place which was, very quiet. And he noticed a wonderful person. He was very young, yet very young and very handsome. And he was just wandering aimlessly. He wore no clothes, nothing. He was absolutely naked. And he was wandering about. He was an Avadhoot. That's what they call it, Avadhoot. And Avadhoot has no bonds, has no claims to anything around him. He just wanders like children, like a child. Aimlessly he was wandering around. So Yadu, but there was such a glow and a great, luminous quality about this young yogi, that Yadu, the king himself, got down from his horse and ran to him and bowed to him and said, tell me, who are you? Who is this? Why is it that you wander about as if you're a madman or a ghoul or something totally demented? Yet, no, seeing you, I know you are not. Seeing you, I know you're the very epitome of intelligence and wisdom. And therefore, please instruct me. Who is your guru? What is it that life has taught you that makes you so free, such a free agent? Nothing seems to, there's nothing, no blockage in your life at all. You just wander aimlessly like a cloud in the sky. Please tell me, who is your guru, and give me the advice. Therefore, the next year, the Avadhoot says, the Avadhoot actually, it is said, though it's not mentioned, it's said that it is actually this one. I forget. Anyway, we'll tell about that. The Avadhoot, will come at the end of this thing, he will say about it. So, the Avadhoot says, the fact is that, I have not just one guru, but I have 24 gurus who have taught me all that I have. 24 gurus. These are the gurus which have, and these gurus are, first of all, the 5 elements. The 5 elements, then the sun, the moon, the dove, the python, the ocean, the river, the moth, the honeybee, the elephant, the honey gatherer, the deer, the fish, Pingala, the courtesan, osprey, the bird, the maiden, the arrowsmith, the snake, the spider, and the wasp. He said, these are my 24 gurus from whom I learned everything that I can learn. So Yadu says, please tell me then, please, for a few minutes at least, please sit down and tell me, give me an instruction. What have you learned from these 25 gurus? So the next 2 chapters actually are about his teachings of that. And they're very interesting. First of all, he takes the 5 elements. First, he says, the earth. What have I learned from the earth? The earth itself he says, I've learned forbearance from the earth. The earth, bears up with anything we do to it. We dig it, we spit on it, we shit on it, we cut it up, we do all sorts of torture, we throw plastics into it, we try and do everything to that earth. But she bears up everything. She does not retaliate. She does not do anything to hurt us in return, even though we hurt her all the time. So he says, like the earth, I realize that the yogi has to put up with whatever the external circumstances may be many. We live in a dualistic world. Sometimes bad comes, sometimes good comes, sometimes unpleasant comes, sometimes pleasant comes. Sometimes I get people who come and spit at me. Sometimes there may be people who come and worship me like you. But the yogi remains unaffected by these differences or dualities of this world, exactly like the earth. Another lesson from the earth is that look at the mountains and trees of this earth. The mountains should give us everything. The mountains, actually, by stopping the winds, they give us rain. They give us forests by which we get water and so on. They give us rivers. They give so much, but they are not, they don't want or accept or demand anything for themselves. Similarly, the yogi will never demand or take things from others, but it always has a spirit of giving. Similarly, he says the trees which live on the earth. These trees, just look at the life of a tree. The mango tree does not give mangoes for itself. It gives for those who are around, the children and the birds and the beasts or whatever, the monkeys. So all the trees, these trees they're happy to give up their wealth to everyone and anything who comes around them. And they never accept or demand anything in return. So this is the great thing I have learned from the earth. Number one, patience. And number two, the fact that my life is there for others. My life is to be an offering to others. It is not meant only for myself. I do not live only for myself. This is a great lesson, he said, that I have learned from the earth. Now next, he says, what is the next one? Water. Earth, water. Water, he says, is what I have learned from water. Water runs free. It's a great purifier. It runs free everywhere. It doesn't, like a river, for instance. And as it runs, it blesses everybody that comes in its way. Because only nowadays you hear about shortage of water in Delhi, shortage of water in so many places. There's been an intense summer this year. And the very sight of water will delight a person. Like the Ganga, if you look at the Ganga, it delights you, it fills you up with joy. Similarly, the water gives joy, and not just by drinking it. By drinking, of course, that is the greatest thing that we can have, because water, our body is 72% water. So water is the greatest thing that we have to have water. Without water, we will die. So water, the yogi should be able to, just very sight of him should give, bring happiness and give all bliss actually to the people who watch it. That is the second element of water. Next is the fire. Fire, he says, fire is the most purifying agent actually. Fire, you can put either sandalwood or fecal matter into fire. It will come out as ashes, isn't it? There's no difference. At the end of it, you cannot know whether this is fecal matter or whether this is sandalwood. The same, it purifies everything. It is the greatest of all purifiers. Therefore, he says, like fire, the yogi, by his very touch, by his very look, he should purify. He purifies the whole place which he stays in. Where a holy person comes to a room, that itself, there is an immense air of positivity comes into this thing, like fire. He is a great purifier. Now, not only that, again, like the fire, whatever is put in from outside world may put many things into you. For instance, this yogi is not supposed to go and beg for food or anything. I mean, this particular yogi, the Avadhoot, sometimes you do beg for food. There's nothing. But this, he says, anything that a person gives, I eat. The yogi does not discriminate. Because like fire, he should be able to reduce to ashes anything that is put into him, because he is so pure. That's one thing. Another quality about fire, he says, I realize that the Atman is hidden in every creature, in everything that we see in the world. The Atman is there. Like fire, concealed in all types of fuel. The fuel, it is said, the fuel has fire in it. That is why we can burn it. We cannot burn something which is wet or in rags, isn't it? We cannot burn the earth. We can only burn fuel. Why can we burn fuel? Because fire is already in it, is what they say. Similarly, the Atman is hidden in every creature, in everything in this universe. And like that, that is a lesson I learned from fire. Now fire, then water, fire, air. Next he comes, air. Air again is a great purifier. And again, the air passes through many places. It may pass over a beautiful garden of jasmine and roses, and it carries them with it. Then What about then it goes over a terrible place where it's, all these plastics and this rubbish has been put and terrible stink is there. It carries that also. But in itself, it is pure. It just for a certain amount, while it passes, it carries. But after that, it is pure because in itself, it does not absorb these things. It just passes, the passing flow. Like the air, I understood that the yogi should be impervious to everything the world can offer. Sometimes good people come, sometimes bad people come. Sometimes good things happen, sometimes bad things happen. All this is a play of that divine, and therefore the yogi is totally unattached to any of that. He just leaves it as that life. That is the thing I learned, that purity, air remains pure. Whatever circumstances it is, also the yogi retains his purity in whatever circumstances he is placed in. Life of Krishna is the greatest example of this, as you know. He in the midst of a bevy of women, or in the midst of a holocaust of a battlefield, or in the peace and quiet of the forest, he was ever the same, never rattled by the differences in the environment. So like the air, there are things like that. Then what about Akasha, sky? Finally, the sky. Now the sky again is untouched by anything that happens in it. For instance, so many clouds. You look at the sky. What exactly is the sky? Blue sky, you say. But when you look at it, actually so many clouds are there. Some huge clouds, some big clouds, some small clouds, some pretty clouds. And all types of clouds are there in the sky. But does the cloud make the sky? No. The sky is always the same. And all that clouds which form big patterns and so many things in the sky, stars and so many things we see apparently in the sky, it does not affect the sky at all. So similarly the yogi, though he passes through many situations, the same thing is repeated. Like all these elements are like that. They're self-cleansing, all the elements actually. So like the sky, he is untouched by anything that happens in and around him. It doesn't matter to him. Similarly, it can also be that sometimes he gets negative thoughts, sometimes he gets positive thoughts. When he looks at a negative or positive, there is a certain amount of reaction to that. But that reaction is like a passing cloud. Some people have often asked me, how can we not react when we see bad things? For example, I'm scolding us. The reaction may be there, but like the passing cloud, immediately he goes about. He's not interested. He's not bothered. This is the main thing. That is the greatness of the yogi. That the external world, like what is the example given in the Bhagavad Gita, is that of a tortoise. You remember? He said the tortoise moves around in the midst of people. But the moment he sees anything which is disadvantageous to him, he immediately withdraw all five senses and remain like a rock. Similarly, the yogi, this is all these five elements, and is to show that the yogi is impervious to what is happening in town. Not that he is a stone, not that he is a stick, not someone who is totally, not aware of what is happening. That is very important. He is not a stone. He is not something who doesn't know what is happening. He is very much in knowledge of it, but it does not affect him. That because he knows that the fundamental principle behind all this change and flurry and flutter and all these things which are happening in the world that he's walking in is only a passing show. Like a television show, when we are watching a television show, sometimes we are so involved in it, we start crying, we start howling, we start laughing, we are in such a wonderful state. Nothing matters because it's only a passing show. We know, or inside ourselves, we know this is only something on the screen. That we are eventually, when this show is over, we are back to our own self. Similarly, the yogi, he might enjoy, no problem. He might enjoy a beautiful sunrise or a moonrise. Today is full moon. You can all go and see the full moon this evening. So he can enjoy anything. He can be perturbed, maybe something. But in himself, he knows that it is only a passing show. He is the ever eternal, white, unchanging, unmoving screen on which all this play of the world takes place. So in himself, he has no change at all. So these are the 5 elements. He has learned so much from these 5 elements. Next, he says, the next thing he has learned is from the sun. The sun itself is, number one, without the sun, this planet cannot live. We are a totally solar-powered planet. It is the life of every creature in this particular solar system. In fact, there's someone called Thomas Reeves, I think, the great cosmologist. He said, to create an amazing universe like this, actually speaking, there are 10 things are absolutely necessary. If any one of those 10 things was not there, the whole universe will collapse. It is so perfect. Only when you go into the way that the world is made, there is a huge thing of covering which shuts out the fact that too much of sun. It filters the sun. Because if we get too much, we'll all dry up. We'll all dry up here. The waters will dry up. If we get no sun at all, it'll all freeze over. The ice age will set in. It is so perfectly planned. Only this much is of filtered light. That aura around is being spoilt by the amount of gases and heat that we are letting out by all the type of fuels that we are using. In olden days, only some firewood was being used. After that, now what all types of fuels we are using? And by burning, we burn even plastics and so on. That heat cannot be retained by the original structure. So what happens? It forms it forms a chink in that original beautiful structure. That is why the world is getting warmer, because more of the sun is coming in through. Only this much of sun should come through. That is the original plan. But because of the mishandling, manhandling of the wonderful things that God has given us. First, it started with, as I said, firewood, then coal, then gas, then electricity, and so many things happen. That changes that controlling aura which the sun has. So, like the sun, he said, again, the sun, as I said, is the greatest of all. Now the sun, this was a bit digression because I just wanted to bring out to you what we are doing to that sun which is a very life breath. Now the sun, one of the great things it does, it takes up the water, any waters of the seas and the lakes and so on. It takes up the water and forms clouds, and then it gives back to us as rain. So this is how the yogi also should be. The yogi should take up the best of what the world can offer and give it back to people. It's not that he takes things and keeps them for himself, as most people do, greedy people that we are. We take up things and keep it for ourselves. But the yogi accepts. He might accept many things from many people. It's okay. But why does he accept them? Not for himself. So many people, when you're a great guru or a great yogi or something, people come and give you gifts. You don't say, oh no, I don't want these, I don't want. No, you can accept them, no harm. You accept them. Why? In order to give it to someone who actually needs it. The yogi himself needs nothing. But when things are brought to that, with love, with the love that people and adoration and worship is given to that yogi, the yogi will accept it and give it off to others. Just as the sun takes up the waters of all the rivers and the lakes and the seas, and in order to give it, not because it needs water, it needs nothing, but because it wants to give it back to this world in the form of rain. So like the sun, the yogi will also should be like that. Now, then the moon. The next teacher he has is the moon. Now, what about the moon? The moon is, we never see the full moon, except today you'll see, but only on one day we'll see the full moon. Immediately after full moon, it starts getting, it has digits, you know. Tomorrow it will be, Pradama already. That means 1 digit is already less. Dvitiya, 2 digits are less. Tritiya, 3 digits are less. Until we come again to Amavasya, when there is so-called no moon. We know all the digits are taken up. Similarly, the moon, but does the moon, is there any difference in the actual moon? There's no difference. The digitals of the moon is because of the passing of the moon around this earth, and the certain how it blocks off parts of as it revolves from around the earth. So the digitals of the moon, waxing and waning of the moon, does not affect the moon at all. It remains the same. To us, we may see, now today is full moon and today is crescent moon. Oh, look at her, how small she is. She becomes so thin. Nothing at all. Similarly, the yogi. What about the yogi? What lesson did the yogi listen from the moon? The yogi realized that nothing that happens to this body, sometimes from birth to death, imagine the number of things that happens to the body from birth to death. It changes. Now it's a baby. Now it's a young person. Now it's an old man. Now it's almost on the death. Now the skin is wrinkled. Other times it's so beautiful. Nothing that happens to the body can affect the Atman, because I am the Atman. Nothing that happens to the body can affect me. It is not, this body is not me. Just like the digitals of the moon, just like the waxing and waning of the moon has no effect on the moon whatsoever. So also the waxing and waning of this body, the degeneration of this body, does not have any effect on the yogi, because the yogi understands that he is not the body at all. The body is only a vehicle for that Atman. Otherwise, how much of time we spend? Every day we look in the mirror and say, oh my God, I've got one new wrinkle here. Now what do I do? What wrinkle cream should I use? And every day we try to do all sorts of things in order to make us look younger and more beautiful and more we do so many things in order to, because we are so engrossed. Not that we do, now one very good thing, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, is not that you do totally disregard the body. It's not that. The body should be given as much attention, as much food, as much of looking after and cleaning and washing and so on, as it needs. That for sure. Does not mean that you should totally disregard the body and walk around naked, because we cannot do that. We are not in the state of that Avadhoot who could wander around naked. So we should give as much importance and as much consideration and look after the body as much as we need to keep a healthy, happy life. But with the understanding that the changes in the body does not really affect the Atman, which I am. Who am I? I am that supreme consciousness which is residing me in the form of that Atman, and therefore the changes of the body can never affect me. That understanding is what he got from the moon. So that's another very beautiful message he gets from the moon. Now next is a very interesting story actually. He on detachment. He gives this thing of detachment. Very sweet story. He noticed once, he just wanders. He wanders around everywhere. He looks and he learns these lessons. As from the beginning itself, Krishna said, the human being has been given the mind and intellect by which he can learn so many things from the life around him. So many lessons can be given. These are the gurus which even Yadu had. So even the Avadhoot had. That Avadhoot, as I told you, that who's the Avadhoot? He's actually the Dattatreya himself. It is said that the Avadhoot was really Dattatreya himself. So he is one. From the beginning, as this Avadhoot could learn so many things from so many things in creation, so also the human being can take lessons from everything in creation. Everything in creation is meant as a lesson for us. And we have the mind and intellect to learn that lesson. That is the greatness of the human body, is that what he says in the beginning itself. So, now what is the lesson that he learns from the dove? Once when he was wandering around in a forest or something, he suddenly was struck by a little dove, doves, the pigeons and dove. They were couple. It was summertime and time for mating, and this couple have two mates. They were so much in love with each other. Coo, 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 they would say to each other, and they'd bill and coo, and then, sitting on the same branch, and they will go and eat from the same fruit, and they will laugh, and they fly around, and they're having such a glorious time. Eventually, as luck would have it, the female bird laid some eggs, and again, both the birds were so engrossed, and she sat on the nest for some time, and in due time, some 5 or 6 little chicks came out. Now the happiness of this couple knew no end. They just loved to see the cooing and the cavorting of the little birds, and they would run around, fly all over the place, and get nice things for their little children to eat, and stuff them into their mouths. As they came back, the children would be saying, oh, and they will stuff the thing. So this went on, and the yogi was wanting. These two were totally engrossed in themselves and in those little babies. They were so happy and so blissful and filled with joy to see this. Then what to do? One day, when these two had gone off to the forest to try and get some food for the little fledglings, one horrible hunter, prowler really, a prowler, not hunter, a prowler had come along. He had a huge net in which he used to catch birds. So he suddenly saw these birds were going up in the tree. So he looked up, a nest full of little birds. So he threw them down. He brought the whole nest down. He just dragged it down. So the little birds were caught in the net. Soon after the female, the mother bird came, mother bird came, and she saw this, her babies in the net. She couldn't believe it. She started crying and crying and crying and flapping her wings. And she said, what is the use? I can't help it. I must help them. And she dived into the net herself, and she was also caught. The prowler was sitting on the side and watching all this. And the yogi was also standing somewhere and watching all this. Then came the father bird. The father bird came, and he looked at her. Oh my God, he said, my wonderful, wonderful wife and my lovely, lovely children, they've all been caught in this horrible fowler's net. What is the use of my living? How can I live without them? I cannot live without them. And so saying, he lamented, and he cried, and he cried, and he cried, and he also jumped into the net, so that he said, never mind, I'd rather die with them than live without them. And he also jumped in, and he was caught. The fowler was, of course, extremely happy. He had got so many birds in that one morning. He had got so many birds with just one net, and he caught them. So the yogi thought to himself, just imagine the problems of infatuation. Very often you will find people are totally infatuated with their wife and their children. That's all they care about. They are not bothered about anyone else. They are not bothered about anything else. The whole world may go to ruin. It doesn't matter to them. All there is engrossed in their family alone. If something, small thing happens to one of those children, they're almost heartbroken. Or when his wife is heartbroken. If it happens to somebody else, he doesn't care. If some great war is going on in some Lithuania or something, he doesn't care. But smallest little thing which happens to his wife or his family, he's filled with them. He's all, filled with sorrow and beating his breast. Why did this have to happen to me? I don't deserve this. My poor child, my poor family. Similarly, like this, a whole life is just spent in vain pursuit. Vain. He tries to make money only for the sake of fostering. Wife must have a better, more beautiful things to wear, more clothes or a car or something. He spends his whole life only totally bound up in his wife and children. And eventually, at the time of death, only what has he got to gain out of this life? Nothing but really total attachment. So, yogi understands that True yogi is better to be totally alone, not to be entrapped in the in marital bonds. Now, remember, it's only for the yogi. Don't remember. Also remember that this the whole of Udhhava Geeta was said to Uddhava, who was asked to take up sannyas. Not like Arjuna, who was asked to take up this thing in battle. See? And so he was totally the yogi. Much better for him to forego. If his only desire is to gain enlightenment, if his only desire to attain the Atman and the Brahman, he should forego all such bonds of marital bonds and children and so on, which that will only drag him down. Remember, as I said again, some people are asking this question, I think, material part of journey. And okay, so it's not meant for everyone, it's meant for the yogi, this particular lesson, okay? And if you have any other questions on this, I suggest you ask tomorrow. Tomorrow we have a Q&A at 11 o'clock, so we can ask. So this is only for the yogi. So for the yogi, encumbrances, a family encumbrance is a burden. Because his only desire in this life is to gain the Brahman. He has no other desire. And therefore, any marriage and children will only be a bond for him. Okay? That is a lesson he learned from the dove. Now, the python. Now, the python is a very strange thing. When you will watch animals, if you're in cities, it's very difficult. But if you're somewhere in the countryside, you will find that all animals, which includes birds, all animals and birds, from morning till night, they have only one thing to do. They are all the time, they are running around searching for food. From morning to night, this is all they do, searching for food, morning till evening. You will see when you're trying to feed birds also, they'll come and peck up, and then till evening, they're going around looking. Monkeys are the same, all animals are the same. Now, there is one exception to this, that is the python. The yogi noticed that when he was walking through the forest, this python was lying there like a log. In fact, you can almost mistake him for a log. You might even stamp on him, and that will be the end of you. Because the python will eat food only when it comes to him. So if you stamp on a python, he might, especially on his head, he might think your leg is a bit of good food and he'll catch you on the leg and drag you in. So, in fact, the python simply lies there with his mouth open. And any prey that comes anywhere near him is be caught by him. And if a cock or a chicken or something may come, or a rat, mainly rats, or a rabbit or something, they may not even know the python is there, so they run around and immediately goes into the python's mouth and is caught. There's one story about this even in Krishna Avatar, when the boys noticed the mouth of a python and thought it was a cave, and the boys ran into it, and it closed its mouth. So, and Krishna saves them from it. Like that. That is a great one thing about the python. Now, same with the yogi. The yogi does not run around for food. His life is not spent in running. He accepts whatever someone gives. He just wanders around. And very often when he goes through villages or something, people come and give him food. He accepts it. If he wants, if that, whatever it is, he'll accept that. And someday he finds nobody gives him, he's not bothered. Like the python. Python is also not bothered. Someday he gets no food at all. He just stays there simply like that. He'll simply sit there. Similarly, the yogi should not run after food. Most of us, food is really one of the most absorbing things of every human being. Whatever we are, we want food. So we are lot of our time is spent on the type of food, the cooking of the food, and buying of so many things. So much of our time is spent on that. The yogi should not waste his time on such things. The yogi's time is always to be spent in thinking of that infinite consciousness. Therefore, the yogi accepts whatever comes to food comes to him on that day, he will accept it. If no food comes to him on that day, he will be happy with that also. He just wanders out freely. But unlike the python, of course, he doesn't stay in one place. he can wander around. That's another thing about him. Because it's his duty, by his very going to religions, by his going to places, he will help people. And therefore his very presence is a great joy to most people. So he wanders around totally uncaring whether he gets food or not gets food. It doesn't matter to him. He just wanders around. This is one of the things he learned from the great lesson that he learned from the python. Now, next his great tutor or his guru, his next guru is the ocean. We have to finish this ocean fast because we don't have much time. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, we lost a lot of time in the beginning because there's some problem. So, what is it? As he's wandering, he goes near the ocean. He is wandering on the ocean. And he looks at the ocean. And he sees that the ocean comes up and then goes down, and then comes up and then goes down. And then he realizes that many, many rivers flow to the ocean. Sometimes rivers are flowing into the ocean. Sometimes rivers are not flowing into the ocean. But whether rivers flow or don't flow, the ocean remains its this thing. It is the same all the time. You hear the modern parlance, keep cool, man, the people, modern children say. Similarly, the ocean keeps its cool, whatever happens. The same example has been given about the Siddha Pratnya. The yogi is a Siddha Pratnya lady in the Bhagavad Gita. The Siddha Pratnya, he says, like the ocean, what is the great quality? Ocean is the fact that it maintains its standard, it maintains its its level. Whether rivers flow into it or whether rivers do not flow into it, it makes no difference to it. We are on the other hand. What does this mean? The yogi keeps his cool whether he gets pleasant things or he gets unpleasant or doesn't get unpleasant things. Whatever happens, the external flow of the rivers or not flowing of this interesting things from does not affect him. It may come, it may go. Today it may be a joyous thing happening. Tomorrow it must be a horrible thing happening. Either way, the yogi is not affected. Like the ocean, he maintains his balance, his cool. We are like the muddy pools, mud pools, little pools during monsoons. Monsoons are soon going to set in. We will see little pools suddenly out of the sun. We say, oh my, such a pool I never saw. Little puddles come here. Those puddles become nice and strong and healthy as long as water keeps pouring into them. But the moment the water stops, what happens? The pools dry up. But the sea does not mean waters may flow into it, waters may not flow into it, rivers may come into it, rivers may not come into it. But the ocean remains, keeps its level. Whatever happens, the yogi also. Sometimes pleasant things may happen, sometimes unpleasant things may happen. Whatever happens to that, or sometimes no pleasant thing happens to him at all for a long time. He's just there. It doesn't matter to him. He remains the same. Whatever happens externally, that does not affect him. This is a very great lesson that he learns from the ocean. By looking at the ocean, he realizes that the ocean is his guru. In his fact, as I told, he tells him how to keep his cool, whatever happens in the external world. Okay? So that is one more thing which is the thing. We have only 1 minute more, I'm afraid. So maybe we can take one more. Now, the river. Now, from the rivers, as he's passing, sometimes he passes the river. The river, again, he says, it lives for the others. The rivers flow, making the whole countryside, it gives water to all around, and the people around the river, cities are built around the rivers, in olden days especially. All villages and cities were around the river. So, and again, and it can keep itself clean. To a great extent it can. So many things we throw into this river. Even we who are supposed to worship the rivers. We Hindus are supposed to worship our rivers because from the ancient times we were told to worship the river because we knew, sages knew that the river is a very artery, the artery of our country. And if we do not look after the river, the land itself will suffer. So we were told to worship the river so that we will at least keep it clean. Now we don't bother with that even, because we think we get water from a tap. We get water from a tap. Now when this heat wave is on, you will realize that taps don't always provide water. Actually, the rivers are the ones which give us so much of water, so much of strength, so much of fertility around, makes trees grow. So many things happen, so many birds and beasts and so on take from the river. So the yogi should just flow, giving down to everyone, to everything, to everyone, without expectation of anything for itself. Then, another amazing thing about the river will never stop its flow until it reaches the ocean. What does that mean? That the yogi will not stop anywhere. He will continue. His whole life is a march towards the ocean. Like everyone, all of us. Actually speaking, our goal is only that ocean of compassion, that ocean of consciousness, which is that Brahman, which is the Atman, which is in ourselves. So there is actually no path or no journey either. But that idea is that we travel only to reach that particular goal. The yogi has only one goal in his life, and that is to reach that ocean of compassion. Similarly, that is a great, wonderful thing that he learned from the river. So I'm afraid we are past that time. It's already 12:05 or something. So we have to stop today. I know that a lot of you have some questions, but I'm afraid I couldn't answer these questions at this time. But I'll be happy to answer any of the questions. We are having another class from 11 to 12, question answer class from 11 to 12. Tomorrow, same time, same place. So if any of you can come on tomorrow with these questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Okay? So thank you all for listening. This, as I said, is a beautiful sequel to the Bhagavad Gita classes, which I know many of you have attended. So I hope you will all keep on with it, because they're very interesting, really speaking. Hari Aum Tat Sat. Om Sarvesham Swastir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Shantir Bhavatu, Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu, Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah, Sarve Santu Niramayah, Sarve Vajrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukkha Bhave. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Hari.